So Claude has finally launched Opus 4.7. We're going to actually go ahead and test it, see how it actually performs, and are the claims too good to be true? Next, I'm going to tell you how to set it up in Claude Code, use it to build something, and show you an instruction that nobody's actually talking about, which got shipped with Opus 4.7. So let's get started. The first thing you need to do is when you come to Claude is very simply come here and click on this and select Opus 4.7. Now, one option that you will see, which is pretty new, is adaptive thinking. What does that mean? One thing that Anthropic is trying to do is to make sure that the models are only using thinking or the long-term thinking process only when it is needed. Just to show you a different example, if I switch to Sonnet, I see that extended thinking. This is more or less think longer for complex tasks, which more or less makes the same thing that, okay, only think when you have a complex task. But more often than not, what happens in these models is that they just keep thinking because they technically kind of determine every task is complex. But Opus gives you, that's why, a different option, which is to adaptive thinking, that think only when needed, which is pretty cool because I would like to keep that switched on because then I know I'm not spending extra tokens and I'm only spending when it is needed. Then we can start by giving it a very simple task, and I'm going to give it something that I am really interested to know is I'm going to give it a SanDisk earning report, right, which is a financial document that they publish to all their users, and I'm going to ask them to make something crazy. I wanted to make a Sankey chart, which I can look at where the income is being spent, how are they generating revenue, and what is an outlook that we can take out from here to actually determine the value of SanDisk and is it overpriced or not. With this prompt, I just wanted to generate a chart, which is pretty complex, and most of the times a lot of models are not able to do this very well, but I have high hopes from Opus. And I'm going to press enter on this and let it start building the Sankey chart. But until this is happening, let me switch to our beautiful Claude terminal and help you understand how you can set up your Claude Opus 4.7. Now, the one thing that you need to do is very simply come here, switch to model, and you will start seeing Opus 4.7 as an option. Or in case you don't see that, just go ahead and write model Claude Opus 4-7. And that's it. Doing that, you have the model set up to Opus 4.7. And one new thing that Claude is actually released with Opus 4.7, which a lot of people are not talking about, is the new model option of intelligence. So you have high, you have extra high, and then you have max. So the point is there is a distinction here where simply it wants to say that, like, again, high, then you go extra high, and then for your most complex task, you switch to max. Again, this will obviously cost more tokens as we keep going ahead. But for now, we're going to select extra high to test this new mode because, again, we knew, like, again, how max can perform and everything else, but let's switch to extra high, right? The idea is that this is specific to Opus 4.7 and it can do higher, deeper level thinking tasks. And one of the tasks that I wanted to do and kind of focus on is creating me a portfolio website specifically in the colors that I want. And I'm going to make it difficult for it. I want you to start by building a portfolio website specifically for an AI engineer, which has colors starting from a dark mode, but going into gradients with violet and also bringing in some of the pastels like blue and yellow in Studio Ghibli style. The portfolio should be completely built in HTML and CSS. Go ahead and build a single page for this. The reason this is something that I want to try is because this is a pretty complex part to determine on how the colors work. And the second thing that Anthropic is claiming is that it's pretty literal. It will technically do exactly what I'm telling it to do. I myself don't know what the output should look like. So I want to determine how much creativity is there still left in Claude and what are we going to get out of it. So I'm going to select this, press enter, and I will let it do its job right again. And you can see we are already on extra usage and I'm pretty sure I'm going to burn out a lot of tokens on this. Let's come back to our previous task and see what we have got. The one thing that I could see, like, the response is pretty fast. It got done, but where is the Sankey chart? Okay. So this is what we call as a Sankey chart, which is kind of like, shows how much money is being spent. The spends, so you have the revenue coming in, and it's kind of like not great, but also not bad. I would suggest that. I want to kind of ask it to do some changes. So I'm going to very simply say, create a more detailed Sankey chart where we have one side coming in with all the revenue and the other side as all the costs that we are spending. So I'm going to just put that and see how it determines, but not bad and pretty fast. Also, one thing I must suggest, like, again, this is probably one of the fastest outputs I have got. So I believe Opus 4.7 is much faster compared to the previous model. At least it feels like that right now. Let's see when Claude starts throttling its usage. But pretty good and also not a bad response for the first time. And I want to see, like, again, how does this build out in once my prompt gets a bit better. But pretty cool on the options there. Let's see what we're getting here. So it's finally like, again, creating the final page. And I think it's going to take some effort. So you can see it has 1 minute, 21 seconds, thinking with high effort, which is pretty okay, because the point is, I believe it will take around 3 to 4 minutes for this task to complete. And I will show you the final output. Okay, so this is the final output, and it's pretty good. Like, again, like you have the revenue coming in from this side, and how much revenue? It's around $3 billion. And then where all the money is going. This is pretty interesting that, like, again, it was able to build this, because this is a task that I've tried in a lot of different models, and they don't get it right in the quality of detail that I've got this. Plus, I've got everything here. Even though it seems like a simple task, I'm telling you, I've tried it with Gemini, and it just does not work in the way. But we'll still put it to the test again. Now, and we've got the final Sankey chart, and it looks pretty cool, given that Opus 4.7 first was able to one-shot this with a very horrible prompt, if I must say. And now, after a bit more detail, it has been able to build exactly what I want. This is exactly what I like to see to analyze the earnings of any company. You can see the money coming in and the money going out. It's a very popular format of chart, but very difficult to get right for AI models. Even though it feels simple, Opus is probably one of the only models that has been able to get it right with extremely low level of detail. So with that, I have to say that okay, right now things look pretty good for Opus. And I also believe that Claude has focused on making it more better for coding, because that is one of their best outputs right now. And given that this was a complete code-based task, I am sure this is going to be the default model for coding. Okay, with this, let's switch to our portfolio task. And I'm going to open this, and this is the portfolio that it has created. And I can assure you, this is probably one of the most amazing and beautiful portfolios that I've ever seen. You can see the surprise on my face, I'm pretty sure. And I can tell you, like, again, this is pretty cool. And given that it was able to include all kinds of colors, and even like, again, it's probably a bit more heavy on the purple, but that's okay. I was not expecting it to one shot everything. But can you see the clouds moving in the background, and again, all the colors that it has tried to bring in a bit of yellow with the sun. So if I must say, I need to review the prompt that we gave it, and I would just like to see, again, that we gave it very simply dark mode, gradients, and everything else, and Studio Ghibli style. This is super cool. This is something that I would say, I'm going to update my portfolio right after this, so that I really want to use this. And this is just the power of Claude, that it has actually been able to increase the quality of content that it has been able to build. With a 3-line prompt, we were able to get this kind of an output. Imagine what would happen when we would have given a detailed spec on what we needed to do so that we can actually build out a proper portfolio. But this is just crazy good, and I can assure you that Opus is going to change the way that we build. We were already so happy with Opus 4.6. I don't even know what we're going to do with Opus 4.7 with the kind of outputs that we're getting. The one thing that I really like is that it follows the instruction very well, which is something that is missing across all the models, because some of them just are too creative. This is creative with the right amount of instruction following. So pretty cool, looks amazing. And this was one shot with 3 lines. So, okay. Now, one more thing that they launched with this, which is something very interesting for Claude Code, is that very simply that you can now use ultra review. So now one of the cool features that nobody's talking about is available in Claude Code is the pull request review. So we just created a portfolio, and I have sent out a PR, which is simply a way to merge the code into my Jarvis branch. So what I can do is I can actually take this PR and ask /ultra review to kind of review PR number 4, right? And it will go through the whole code and review like a real engineer would. And that's, again, their way of saying that, you can use this to kind of review your PR. So make sure that the code is pretty good. Now, again, this should not take a lot of time, but also you can see, again, this is one of the free versions that I have, because every PR review roughly charges $5 to $25. But I'm just going to say run ultra view in the cloud, and I'm just going to say yes, and it will launch this ultra review on Claude Web, so that I can actually see the PR being reviewed, which is technically their way of saying that, okay, we are going to see how good this is. So I'm going to open this session, and you can see it takes me to the web. Now you can see it has already started running the PR review, which is simply its way of saying that I'm going to see how does your code look like, and if you have any bugs that you should take care of. That's it. And again, it costs quite a lot. So they've given 3 free options for ultra review. It's not monthly, it's just 3 times that you can use ultra review for free. It's just a way of making sure that the first option is always free. And you can see here very simply, we have the review ready, and we have got a couple of options that these are the things that you should look at. They are ambers. There is not something super critical, but these are something that you should really focus on fixing them. And that makes sense. And we can go ahead and go back to Claude and give this to actually fix. But that brings us to a complete options of what Opus can actually. The one thing that you can 110% say that it is very good at coding and also at understanding and reading visual data. So the SanDisk report that I gave it had multiple charts and everything else, and it was able to read that very well and give us a great output. And honestly, the one thing that I actually love is the instruction engine, because that is something that really, like, again, blows my mind, that it exactly does what I wanted to. And they have also said that the old prompts might break because these prompts have to be literal, because Opus 4.7 is very good at just doing what it was told. Now, just to tell you all the options that you have here is that understand that, again, you should look at options for, like, extra high effort. So you can use it between high and max, something not super complex, but something that is not working very well in high, you can switch to extra high effort. You can also use ultra review to actually take care of your bugs, and it does cost after the first three options, but I think people who are actually using it on production systems will highly appreciate the value that ultra review brings. And also task budgets. This is something that they have tried to do for the APIs, that in an API you can add a task budget. So AI will make sure to optimize the cost spend to solve something. So let's say if you ask it to build a portfolio and you built it as an app that others can use, you can tell that always only spend maybe X amount of tokens or an X amount of dollars to make sure that you are always within your budget. And this is something cool for people who are building apps and want to control their budgets on completing a particular task. With this, you get the idea of what Opus 4.7 can bring in, and you can look at this comparison to understand what does Opus 4.7 actually bring on the table. And it's one of the best models right now out there for building stuff, programming, and for anyone like us who's actually focused on using AI to build things, and you can really harness the power there. Again, if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. And if you want to see a comparison video between all of these three, hit the subscribe button right away, because I'm going to launch the next video, a comparison between all three models, and you're going to have a lot of fun with it. And if you're someone who wants to actually learn how to harness the power of building in Opus 4.7, go ahead and check out the community below in the description, where we would love to teach you how to use Claude Code to actually build things that matter. And if you really enjoyed it, hit the like button so that YouTube can show it to more people. Till then, I'll see you in the next one.